Hey guys, welcome back to Morgan Hill Farms. So I've been down in the garden today just doing a few odds and ends down here. I'm looking for things like bug pressure, disease, leaves that I need to trim off my plants. I'm pruning things. I'm also doing some succession sowing and planting some more plants down here. So the squash vine borers have gotten pretty much all of my zucchini. Luckily, my butternut squash has not been affected by them. But when I came down to the garden yesterday, I had seen that a lot of my vines had this sawdust looking material around the base of them. And that's going to be a key to tell you that the squash vine borers have arrived. So what you want to do when you see this is you will want to wipe away that sawdust, paying attention to where it's at, and you're going to see a very small hole. It's actually a little difficult to figure out where exactly they went in the plant at, but if you can take your nails or even just a small paring knife and kind of open up the plant in that area, you are going to find these little white worms with little black heads, and those are squash vine borers. In one of my plants, I found about 5 of those. In another one, I found a really fat one who had been eating quite a bit. And you want to make sure that you get rid of all of those and get all of those guys out, even if that means that you kind of have to work up the plant, opening up that vine little by little until you are certain that you've gotten them all, because if you don't, they will kill your plant. Now, it may look like my plants have been pretty damaged by that process of opening up the vines and getting those worms out, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to pile on top of those, and I'm going to give a really good drink of water to these and make sure that they're very well watered for the next few days to week so that my plants can heal. Now, when you first come into my garden, there was a bed of onions, and I saw that a few of those were falling over. I had harvested some of those in the past week or so, but I needed that bed because we are quickly coming upon salsa season. I have some jalapenos that are ready. In fact, most of my pepper plants here with jalapenos are pretty much loaded down, and I've started to harvest just a couple of those, but they're going to be ready very soon. And I need cilantro. So in the onion bed, what I did is pulled all of those onions up, and then I went ahead and re-amended it with some good compost. And then I just sprinkled on very liberally a lot of cilantro seed, just because I know I'm going to need a lot of cilantro, and these plants are still going to be fairly young when I am needing them to make my salsa. So my hope is that it will just make a large block of cilantro, and I can harvest that when they're still very young, and I'll get enough for my recipe, but also be able to leave enough on the plant so that those will continue to grow and thrive. Then on the other half of that bed, I did some dill, because I really love to have fresh dill when I do my pickles, and I also love fresh dill in things like homemade ranch dressing and on top of herbed salads. I am dehydrating a bunch of these herbs right now, and those are going to be great in the off season, but during the season when they're growing, I love to have them fresh. So that is what I have been up to today. But while I am down here, and I still do have a lot of work to get done, I wanted to sit down for a minute and just have a little chat with you guys about just something that's been weighing heavily on me. I know that a lot of my videos really focus on the knowledge and the education of gardening, but when I started this channel, it was really to show people what we were doing and that we were successful in doing it because we are growing food to feed our family. I was worried that we weren't going to be able to get food. I mean, my grocery stores were empty when we went to them back a few years ago, and I panicked. And so that's why we started growing our own food. And I wanted to document that to show you guys that if you've never gardened before, you can do it. I mean, literally, I put a seed in the ground and it grows. By the grace of God, it grows and it produces, and it produces in abundance for us. Hey guys, so it's the next day. My camera ended up overheating and would not continue filming for me. So this is the next day. I'm gonna try to film here underneath my blackberry trellis to give the camera a little bit of shade so that it doesn't overheat. It is super hot today and very humid as well, so we're gonna try to make this work. But what I was basically trying to say is that my heart in all of this is to help educate you guys, help to share with you what we're doing here. My heart is really really growing our food so that if it weren't available at the store, we would have it here and be able to provide for our family. So what really kind of sparked this whole video of why I wanted to chat with you guys for just a moment here is Nate came home to me the other night and he said, hey, did you hear about Idaho? And I said, no. Now, he grew up in Idaho, so this kind of really moved him a bit. But apparently the Idaho Department of Water has issued a curtailment for about 500,000 acres of farmland, so specifically farmland. And what that curtailment means is that they've essentially shut off the water to all of that farmland. Now, that area grows obviously potatoes. Idaho is a huge producer of potatoes, but it's also barley. It's also wheat. They also grow alfalfa. And these farmers were given no notice of this. So they have already put their crops in the ground. They've already invested in those seeds, in fertilizer, in the time and the energy and the fuel that it takes to cultivate that land, to get these things growing. And if they're not allowed to water it, then that means that those crops essentially will die. And a lot of these guys are going to end up going out of business. In fact, most of them will end up facing losses. Even the smallest of the farmers is facing a $3 million loss if he loses everything this year. And he'll have to shut his farm down and sell the farmland. And so what does that mean for you and I? Well, it could mean a couple of things. So next year's potato harvest, or maybe wheat, or maybe barley harvest, or the things that we see in the store made with those items may not be as plentiful as before. In fact, maybe there will be a severe shortage of it. I'm not sure. But what I do know is with shortages comes price hikes. And I know that we're all feeling that crunch at the grocery store when we go. I mean, heck, when I go once a month or once every 6 weeks just to buy junk food, it's $100. I mean, it's pretty ridiculous for me getting food that's not even sustenance for my kids. In fact, I kind of feel like I'm buying poison there anyways, but to spend $100 on junky food that's not providing nutrition for them is kind of crazy anyways. What that also means is that you see the government coming in and shutting things down. Now, let me tell you something very interesting. You might be saying, well, geez, maybe they can't supply water to their residents. Maybe people are going to run out of water there. Well, that's not the case. The reservoirs in Idaho right now are at their highest level. In fact, they're having to run the rivers and the canals as high as they can to keep the dams from bursting. So there's not even a water shortage right now, as to what they were reporting on Fox when I watched it. A lot of these farmers were on there giving some details about what was going on there. So that's pretty surprising. And the governor of Idaho has the power to end this so that these farmers can continue to irrigate their land and continue to grow food for the rest of us. But the governor says he doesn't want to do that. He wants the farmers to go into mitigation with the water authority and to come to an agreement between those two. But we all know that that's not going to end anytime quickly. Is it going to benefit the farmers? I mean, if it was going to benefit the farmers to have that type of agreement, why would the water department even put this curtailment on them in the first place? So I guess what I'm trying to say, guys, is that there is a huge need to grow your own food right now, whether it's just because of fighting inflation at the grocery store, or if it's because, there are things that you can't get there that you used to be able to, and you need to provide those for yourself. Or maybe it's just because you see that over 75% of the products there are bioengineered. And I mean, what does that even mean? That can mean that they use plant DNA, animal DNA, that's okay, but they can also use bacterial DNA and viral DNA to make those foods. And they're not required by law to tell you what is in it that makes that ingredient bioengineered or what the ingredient is. What's also interesting is that it doesn't even have to be labeled as bioengineered. It could just simply have a QR code, or it could just simply have a phone number to reach out to that food manufacturer, which most products have already had anyways. So you have to do that due diligence to find out what that food is and what is in it and what you're feeding your family, if that is a concern to you. But anyways, guys, those are just some of my thoughts today, some of the things that have been weighing on my mind. So that, along with everything going on in the world, politically, economically, financially, and that actually brings up another good point that I wanted to mention really quickly. When I'm in my garden, I love to listen to financial videos or financial podcasts. And the guys that I'm listening to are very much on track with what they're talking about, meaning that they're not straying from what they're doing. These financial guys that I'm watching have been CEOs or major players in a lot of really, really well-known companies out there. You would know the names. Most people in our country would know the names of these companies. So what I'm trying to get at is that they know what they're doing. They know what they're talking about. Anyways, the other day I was listening to one of the gentlemen on his videos talking about what was going on economically in the finance industry, etc. And he said, you know, the most important thing that you can do right now is to grow a garden. And that really struck me because, like I said, like these guys, they don't stray off of what they're talking about. You know, they're Dow Jones. They're, you know, things that the government has put in place in the financial sector. They're talking about, you know, Jerome Powell and interest rates and, you know, commodities. They're not talking about homesteading, gardening, preparing. So that really struck me. And then I was listening to another guy who really kind of focuses on telling consumers where to put your money, where you should invest right now, so that you can be set, you know, for your retirement. You know, should you be in the market? Should you be in commodities? Where should you be investing your income so that you can make sure that your retirement is safe? Okay, and so this gentleman was on with another gentleman, and they were going back and forth and discussing things. And one of the guys said, just out of the blue, he said, you know, he said, I'm not so concerned as to what this particular political strategy is going to do to the American people financially, but I'm very concerned about what it is going to do as far as a societal breakdown. He said, I'm really concerned about societal breakdown right now. And they went on about a 15 to a 20-minute rant just talking about society and what it would look like if there was a breakdown, if things did go wrong, if something went bad, what that would mean for us, and what that would mean for our families and our lives and just our safety and everything. And so that really, really struck me. And so I just wanted to share that with you guys today. These are just a few of the things going around in my brain. Now, I'm not saying that anything is going to happen or anything isn't going to happen. We can kind of all come up with our own ideas there, and our own thoughts, kind of looking around at what is happening. But I do think that it's just very important that you have the abilities to provide for your family. And maybe that means, you know, if you can't grow a garden, maybe that means that you're going to the farmer's market and you're buying things in bulk and you're learning how to preserve those items so that you have some things on the shelf, some things set back in case something happens. I used to operate my household with one item. So if I ran out of my jar of mayonnaise, if I hadn't picked it up that week at the store, if I hadn't written it down on the list that I was getting low on that, I wouldn't have mayonnaise and I'd have to run to the store to get it. Now that's not how we operate at all here. But at that time, if something had happened, just like in 2020 when I went to the store and my cabinets were empty and the grocery store shelves were empty, you know, what do you do in a situation like that? So anyways, guys, I hope that this is just some food for thought for you. Hopefully you hung in with me while I talked about this and kind of shared what I'm thinking about. And I hope that it encourages you guys to maybe plant a little more, maybe see what crops are coming out that you can replace with something else to keep a seamless harvest for your families. Maybe just learning something new, because the more that we know how to do, the less we're reliant on somebody else and the more valuable we are to our neighbors and friends and families. And so I hope you guys take that to heart. I hope you got something from this video, and thank you guys if you did hang in here with me. I know this isn't my my typical video lately, but I hope you guys are thinking about this stuff. And thank you so much for hanging out with me today. If you like this video, please like, subscribe, and share, and we will see you in the next one.